Like, wow, nobody has ever tapped out human potential. There's no human that's ever lived where we're like, oh, that person clearly became Superman and there's nothing else that they could have learned, nothing they could have developed about themselves. We just have, as far as we can tell, pretty much unlimited potential as humans. That means how much are we leaving untapped? How much are we leaving undeveloped? If you think about what you might be thinking or feeling when you're at your deathbed, looking back, do you think you're going to regret taking risks and doing new things? Or do you think you're going to regret more the potential that you didn't develop? I've heard plenty of people talk about this, real life experiences. It is always the things we didn't do that make us feel the most regret. I think everybody should think about, what does it mean? You're not going to know the answer. It's like when you say, how do I become the best version of myself? You have no idea yet. That's part of the journey. The part of the journey is that, like, you start learning about what it is you want to develop about yourself next. Like that piece of property, you don't just own the piece of property. You don't have the perfect best vision for what it can be. You have to learn as you go, and things will change over time. I think it leads to the most rewarding life path when we make a decision to prioritize our own development, our own reinvention.
Amazing. I couldn't agree.
Emerge Stories is a place where, as the name implies, you are going to hear stories. Stories from people all over the Philippines who have come from many different types of backgrounds, and especially people who have gone through struggles, people who have gone through the challenging parts of life. And I hope that these stories will relate for you in some way, that some of these stories will really land for you, because these people have gone through probably just about the same thing you might be going through right now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gladys, and I'm the co founder of EmergePH. And today I will be interviewing my co founder and life partner, Eli. And we will be talking about the topic of self development. I would love to start it by asking you, Eli, what is self development? And I'm also curious, how did you start diving into that journey of personal growth?
It's a great question. It's a really challenging question. Many people have started to hear terms like personal growth, personal development. And when some people hear those words, they just associate it with the kind of learning that we did in school, or acquisition for improving your career advancement or getting a different job. It's hard to really understand until you actually start. But the way I would describe it, personal growth is a little bit less specific, but personal development is, if you think about yourself and developing yourself, that's imagining you have a piece of property, you purchase a piece of property, but it's just barren, or maybe there's a jungle there. It's very rocky or whatever's there. It's very, raw. Then you want to develop it into something more beautiful, more like, well, it has so much potential. What could it be? It could be a resort, or it could be a dirty city. It depends on the vision that you have and the work that you put in, what you'll turn yourself into. That's just a very loose metaphor. I spent the decade of my 20s and most of my 30s just really doing what a lot of people do, which is focusing on wanting freedom, wanting success, wanting to create financial abundance in my life, measuring everything in my life based on external situations. Do I have the kind of car, the kind of house, the kind of job, the kind of freedom, the travel, the experiences that I want? And if no, then I need to work harder to get them. I was really just focusing on the doing so that I could have. The doing and the having were really what was taking up most of my focus. I wasn't asking myself who I wanted to actually become. I wasn't looking inward to understand myself. And thinking about that question, it's a tough question. Who am I exactly? Who could I become? And who do I want to become? When you start asking those questions, it gets pretty scary because it's really complex. I would just say that personal development is a commitment to thinking about what your potential really is and thinking about intentionally crafting your future self. Eternally and infinitely expands out from there, which is actually both the challenge and the beauty of it, is that it's a never-ending journey. When you start to commit to thinking, who could I actually become? Who do I want to become? You start asking that question. And if I started deciding that, how do I decide? And then how do I go about doing it? I have no idea. We're not talking about skills here. We're not talking about learning programming or learning how to start a business, although many of those things will get better if you work on developing yourself.
That's beautifully said. And I love the metaphor that you use. You see yourself as a property, let's say a forest, and there's a lot of weeds growing, tree growing. And in order for you to develop yourself, you need to decide whether or not you want to keep all those weeds and rocks there, or do you actually want to clean it up so you'll be able to build something and a stronger foundation? Are you going to cut those trees and make space for yourself, or cut those trees and use it as a foundation as well at the same time?
If you play with that metaphor more,
Mm.
then you might also think by the time you start paying attention to what's already there, how did it get there? There might be buildings on the property that you didn't build. You can think of those as maybe beliefs. There's all kinds of stuff built inside you that you don't understand is there. You didn't put it there and you don't know how it got there and you didn't even see it until you step back and you think, oh, I wonder what this place could be. And then you start seeing that there's stuff there that you didn't put there. And then you have to start asking, does this serve me? Does this fit my vision of the most ideal future self that I can become? Okay, this tree, it's actually beautiful. I want it to stay there, even though I didn't choose it. I didn't plant it. It was just already there. But it's great. It's a beautiful tree. But these weeds over here, this building over here, no, they got to go. This is not part of the reinvented future that I want.
If you would name those, what is those tree? What is those weed? If you can connect that to something that people can easily identify for themselves, what are those things?
You might discover when you start looking inside yourself that you've got some natural gifts or abilities that are already really good strengths. Maybe you're naturally empathetic. Maybe you're really good at persuading other people naturally. There could be things about you, or maybe you're quite tuned in to your emotions, whereas a lot of people are not. Depends. Maybe there's some beliefs that you've already formed, like, hey, I'm really good at learning. Or I'll give you an example. In my early years, thought that I was really smart. I don't know how I got that idea. Maybe my mom told me that I was smart or whatever it was, but I went through a lot of years thinking that I was really smart, even though other people may not have necessarily agreed with me. I thought so. And I thought I could figure things out. That led me to put myself in positions or situations that were outside my competency and comfort zone, which led me to learn really fast. So that's good. Then I discovered that the mindset of thinking I'm smart a lot of times led me to a bit of a closed mindset where you're too attached to thinking things
Mhm.
sometimes. And I realized what I would rather be. I borrowed this also from Tom Bilyeu. Instead of thinking you're smart, it's way better to think that you are actually just a really good learner. And so that was okay. I remodeled that structure. I didn't tear it down completely. I still want to think highly of myself. I still want to think that I'm valuable, but I don't want an ego and I don't want to
Mm.
necessarily think I know things. I don't want to be rigid about anything I know. I want to. So that's an example of something that was already there that you had to retool.
Mm.
An example of weeds would be unconscious behaviors and unconscious beliefs, unconscious stuff going on inside you. There's so much that we're doing on an autopilot where we're just reacting to
Mm.
life. We're reacting to things in ways that we didn't choose and we don't even know why we do them. Let's say you get feedback from somebody and it makes you feel extremely insecure and you start feeling really defensive and you start freaking
Mhm.
out. The inside of your body is panicking. You're literally life is threatened. That's not wiring you want to keep. Those are weeds. Those are things that have been maybe through trauma, maybe through other things in culture where you've become very insecure about something that really needs some work. You got to go in and work on your inner landscape and
Mhm.
remove those weeds and change the soil if you want to become someone who can really learn and grow fast, because you need to have feedback from people and realize that they're actually trying to help you. You don't want to always be freaking out when you get data about yourself. Those are
Mhm.
just a couple examples I guess I would share.
Thank you for that. Now, another question that I could think of would be for someone like me, for example, who grew up here, a Filipino, self development, self growth, it's something that's not being taught in school. At least in my experience, I've never had that lesson where it's being taught. Now that I want to go into that journey, I want to improve myself and my life, I don't know where to start. Most of the time, for me, for example, I just focus on how can I make more money or what job can I apply that would allow me to create more money, and thinking that's the self improvement, making myself better financially. Is that how you see self development?
It's very natural for us to measure things in our environment, our external world, your job, your income, your ability to take care of your family. Obviously, there's base survival, which we need to have in place. Some people that's not in place. Most people it's more in place than they think. They're just wishing for it to be better. You're not actually on the verge of dying, your survival is pretty much there. It's not either or. It's not that you necessarily would say, I'm going to just stop trying to get better at work or stop improving my situation in life while I go improve myself. But if you had to choose one or the other to make your main priority, I would actually recommend making it yourself, because you are the value that you bring everywhere. And the way that you think, the way you see the world, the way problems, the way you interact with people, the way you understand yourself and other people, this is going to be the foundation. It's the center of everything. Everywhere you go, the value of you is the intrinsic core thing. The things you do with that value and even the skills you stack on top of it are a lot of times what you get paid for. But if you look at the difference between the most highly paid people in the world and way down the ladder, it's actually the mental map of the world. It's the resolution of understanding of themselves, other people, and the way the world works that actually creates the core value. That's the difference between people that actually get paid more. You could just focus on what are the degrees I need to get, what are the skills I need to get, what are the courses I need to take, and what are the jobs I should apply for. You could just think very tactically like that. That will get you some improvements in life. What I would really recommend is a mindset shift. It's tuning your focus to core of who you are and saying, that's my priority. I want to always be developing that. I want to be developing myself, my understanding of my own emotions, my understanding of why do I interact the way I do, raising my awareness of the way that I speak, the way that my face looks to other people. There's a million things that you would focus on if you're going to develop yourself as your core pursuit in life. The main shift is taking ownership, because when we grow up going to school, it's not something we're thinking about as our job. It's somebody else's job. Somebody else decides what you should learn, when you should learn, and you just follow. It's this linear thing. And you think, oh, the way to improve myself is to go find some linear path that somebody else has created for me and just do it. And then I get to the end, I get a diploma, a degree, or a certificate or whatever. And that's how you learn. But the thing is, we live in a period of time where we have access to all knowledge that has ever existed. Basically, any human knowledge that has ever existed. Maybe we lost things in antiquity, but pretty much all of the smartest people on the planet, the people that are the best at whatever, they share what they know for free, like podcasts, books, videos on YouTube, etc. There's just unbelievable amount of learning at our fingertips. That is something we don't know how to really do because nobody taught us how to teach ourselves. Nobody taught us how to go out into that crazy chaos of knowledge and choose what do we learn or build habits around improving ourselves. So it's more of a mindset shift. It's taking ownership. And that is scary because when you first start thinking about making that your job, it's like, oh my God, like you said, where do I start?
Where do you start?
With a commitment, say, okay, from now on, my future self is my job. I'm not going to expect my employer to take care of it anymore. My mom and dad are not going to follow me around and tell me what to do. There's nobody that's going to be taking ownership of your future self except for you. I remember when that kind of dawned on me and I'm like, I think I'm just resisting this decision because it feels scary because I don't know what to do. When you don't know what to do, you feel scared to take ownership. But it doesn't matter if you know what to do or not. You just have to realize you have to own your future self. If you think of the self-carved man, or you think of yourself as both clay, like a ball of clay, and the sculptor, you're going to be the sculptor who's going to mold yourself and remold yourself. And you don't want to ever get rigid or baked. You just always want to stay malleable. But you're also going to have to learn how to be a sculptor because you don't know yet. So here's where you start. It's actually really simple. When this occurred to me, I also got less scared. The world is full of people that we can learn from who are willing to share with us. All we have to do is start listening to different people and asking ourselves, which of the people that I might find on YouTube, whatever, seem to be thinking, living, interacting with others, experiencing life in a way that I would like to be a little bit more like that. I'd like to be living a little bit more like that person is. It seems like they're feeling peace or joy or love in a way that I actually don't seem like I know how to do right now. Is that because their life situation is different? No, it's because something inside is different. So my first recommendation is just the easiest hack you can always use forever. Just start picking a few people. If it's Gladys, if it's me, if it's somebody else, doesn't matter who it is. Find somebody where something they are saying makes it obvious that they've learned something that you don't get yet, and just start listening to them, follow them a bit, and figure out which parts of them you want to take for yourself and which parts of them you don't really want to model. Don't discard the person, Don't discard everything they say just because you find one thing you don't like. Maybe you find one or two things you really don't like, but don't discard the person. It's not about the person. Just take the things about them that you really like and then figure out, where did they learn? Who do they follow? And you'll find this spider web that goes out forever. Oh, they read this book, they listened to that podcast, and people that you like to learn from will tell you, they'll reference where they learned things. That just applies forever. I don't think you can run out of that. The usefulness of that will not run out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good advice for you to be guided. You don't have to figure things out on your own. There are already people who's able to figure it out before you. All you have to do is actually learn from them, learn from the people they learn from, and also adapt it in yourself, personalize it in a way that actually applies to you. And that is the kind of practice that I've been doing in my life as well, that makes me feel excited when I learn something and I start testing it out and see how it can apply for me and see how I can use it to improve my lifestyle, my life. Now, there are a lot of people here in the Philippines who seem to be not really paying much attention to self growth, self development. They seem to be happy with where they are in life. Do you necessarily think that everyone should pursue this journey of looking inward, improving themselves?
That's a really good question. I first want to comment on your observation about people here in the Philippines, because I'm not sure I know any country. There might be a few countries where there's an extraordinarily high percentage of people focusing on personal growth. I'm not sure, maybe. But from what I see, it's pretty much the same everywhere. Anytime anyone says anything to me about here in the Philippines, I'm like, here on Earth, like humans are this way, right? The
Mhm.
vast majority of humans are going through life thinking about money, thinking that if I just had more money, everything would be solved. And then sometimes they get money and they realize that did not make me any happier. It made things worse. Money is just an intensifier of who you are. If you are not somebody who you love, respect, and admire, you're just going to dislike yourself more when you have more money. Trust me, it's not the answer. Most people are going through life either numbing themselves out with entertainment or substances, or they're chasing money. And very few people are really intensely and intentionally focused on becoming the best version of themselves that they can. Do I think everybody should? Not on a universal level. I think for the future of the human race and for the future of the planet, it'd be great if more people do, because the more people grow themselves, the more they contribute to everyone around them. I also think that for the lived experience of the individual, there is nothing better for your experience than to take that journey of exploration, experience, and learning and think to yourself, like, wow, nobody has ever tapped out human potential. There's no human that's ever lived where we're like, oh, that person clearly became Superman and there's nothing else that they could have learned, nothing they could have developed about themselves. We just have, as far as we can tell, pretty much unlimited potential as humans. That means, how much are we leaving untapped? How much are we leaving undeveloped? If you think about what you might be thinking or feeling when you're at your deathbed, looking
Mhm.
back, do you think you're going to regret taking risks and doing new things? Or do you think you're going to regret more the potential that you didn't develop? I've heard plenty of people talk about this, real life experiences. It is always the things we didn't do that make us feel the most regret. I think everybody should think about, what does it mean? You're not going to know the answer. It's like when you say, how do I become the best version of myself? You have no idea yet. That's part of the journey. The part of the journey is that, like, you start learning about what it is you want to develop about yourself next. Like that piece of property, you don't just own the piece of property. You don't have the perfect best vision for what it can be. You have to learn as you go, and things will change over time. I think it leads to the most rewarding life path when we make a decision to prioritize our own development, our own reinvention.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. I would never thought that learning can be fun, because the idea of learning for me is waking up early in the morning, going to school, answering all the assignments, creating project, and there's that fail or pass thing that you would also wait and anticipate the potential of failing. But then in life, when you're focused on just improving and learning as a person, you get so excited of reading a book and seeing what can I learn from this. And even on the journey of savoring all the knowledge, at least for me, it gives me all that excitement and progress already of just having a new and better understanding of a certain concept of belief. What is limiting belief? Being able to apply it real time and failing It's not pleasurable, but still, even the failing part, what people call failing, you can still see it as an opportunity. Like, oh, okay, this is for me an opportunity to get better. If you succeed in whatever you pursue, it's an opportunity to celebrate. So either way, there's no such thing as failure.
That's learning in and of itself. The relationship you have with quote unquote failure and learning how to shift your perspective on that completely to the point where you actually feel like there's no such thing as failure and it's just data, then what are you afraid of when you try anything? Because unless it's some kind of a extreme sports where failure means death, and that's a little different, but generally speaking, failure is not the end. It's just learning.
Exactly. Here in Emerge PH, we're really focused on building community for the people. Why do you think it's such an important thing to have community or to be surrounded with other people in this pursuit of self development?
On a zoomed out scale, and the more I see where the world is headed, technology has led us to all this accessibility of everything, constant access to everything all the time. That makes our attention quite diffuse. And it's a little bit tricky when you start thinking, I want to grow and I want to learn, but my brain is also being inundated all the time with so many different things that it's pretty messy. And it's hard to figure out where to focus your attention down to. Like social media with connection, we know so many people, which is cool. But most of the time, our interactions are very thin. They're kind of surface. We don't go that deep with people. We need to move away from that, not completely. It's not like we're going to not use it anymore. But in order to grow ourselves, we need to diffuse our attention and our relationship energy going across so many things and narrow it down, be a little bit more selective. Choose the people we spend our time around based on our values. If we're choosing to value learning and growth as one of our top priorities in life, we need to connect with other people that are doing the same thing. When you don't have that around you, it's really hard. So most people are born in families and cultures and whatever. This happened to me as well. When I started gradually realizing that I wanted to choose who I was going to become in the future, I wasn't really happy actually with who I had become in many ways. Some ways, yes, many ways, no. It was leading me to an unhealthy, unhappy life. I started realizing I've got to do work on me. And I started reading Tony Robbins and a lot of other books that just started opening my mind up to how much work there was to do on myself. I started doing some of that work and it started feeling really good. I started being excited. I started meditating. I started a lot of different things I started pursuing that started making me feel better about myself because I'm actually a better version of me now than I was 6 months or a year ago. But when I started feeling that exciting feeling, I wanted to bring the people around me with me. And this happens to almost anyone who discovers personal development journey. You want to bring your friends and your family with you. They don't know what you're talking about for some reason. They just think you're crazy. It's so weird to them. I won't get into too many of the reasons why, but it just usually works that way. Typically, the people you grew up with are not going to be starting that journey at the same time you did, if they ever do. And you cannot convince them to do it. You shouldn't try. It won't work because people need to choose for their own reasons at their own timing, actually start investing in themselves and wanting to grow. Maybe your behavior, your choices, and who you become over a couple of years will blow their minds so much that they're like, whatever you're doing, I got to get some of that. The point is, by committing to becoming the best version of yourself that you possibly can and making that lifelong journey kind of commitment, you're setting yourself in a place where you're probably not going to be continuing to do some of the things you used to do with the people around you. That means you're going to go out and drink less often because you want your brain to work, or the kind of conversations that the people you're used to being around are just not helping you. They're making you feel negative. Maybe you're just surrounded with complaining and gossip a lot and you don't want to do it anymore. The habits you're trying to build of waking up in the morning and, let's say, exercising and meditating so that you can be your best self during the day, that doesn't align with the people that you've been spending your time with. That doesn't mean you need to kick them out of your life, but it does mean that you need to find your tribe. You need to find the people that are actually doing the same thing. You want to find the people. Actually makes me feel like emotional when I think about it because it's so powerful to find people who are really passionate about the same thing. Because then you feel like instead of fighting against the tide, you actually have a wave going with you and you're moving in the same direction. It's such a good feeling. That's why we need to have community that connects people based on their values.
Yeah, that's so true. I just want to say something on the other side as well. I'm someone who doesn't really like to connect with people. I'm someone who is so used to just being by myself because I'm very observant and I observe people just gossiping each other. And ever since, it's not something that draws me. But it is also not healthy because I only have limit knowledge and information. It's only the things that I put in myself. Only there's no one that I could share or talk through to verbally process my experience, my feelings, and my thoughts. So it was also helpful for me to expand my circle, be connected with random people that allow me to actually realize, oh, this is actually something new. This is something that I never thought I would be interested in, but yeah, this is something I'm interested in right now. But as you said, it will reach to the point where it can be too much, too many people, too many things that you will not be able to really accommodate and entertain everyone in your circle. So that's when tuning it down and focusing on who are actually the people that I want to spend my time more. And decided to create my own community, Scale You, which we did start before Emerge. And realizing that it's not just me who's going through this journey, there are actually people who are also going through this journey and are in different stages in life. There are people who are already successful with their career, but they're still focusing, they're still wanting to improve themselves. There are people who are already in a beautiful romantic relationship, but they're still in this journey. So you get to meet different people in their different stages of life and learn from each other. If you're a single person and you want to have an amazing relationship, you can learn from that person. If you want to better your career, you can learn from that person and you'll be able to connect with them in that intimate circles. That's for me the power of community. Beautiful.
The beginning of what you were saying there, I think, is important because most people are not in the habit of meeting new people. Some people are, but I would say the majority of people aren't. And when you hear about a community or a group of people, whether it's a Facebook group or it's a Toastmasters club or a book club or whatever, let's say you get invited and it sounds interesting. It sounds intriguing. You even notice that there could be some value there for you, but you don't know what's behind the door. You don't know who the people are there. And there's just this human kind of discomfort with situations like that. Walking into a new place with new people always feels a little bit scary. But if you think of times in your life where you actually have done that on purpose, I bet you'll remember that there were some good outcomes. You probably met some good people. I have a book that's almost ready to be published right now called Scary Equals Happy that I've been working on for a long time. It's really specifically about this concept that it's the things that make us uncomfortable in life that we typically are subconsciously avoiding, where all the growth opportunity and all the beautiful feelings actually reside on the other side of doing something a little bit scary. If you talk to somebody in a coffee shop, most people won't do that because it feels scary. But is there any risk? If you say hi to somebody in an elevator, is there any risk? No, but it feels so awkward, right? But it actually might feel amazing. If you say something friendly to that person, they feel good, you feel good. There's actually good feelings on the other side of lots of little scary things. So going into a new place, especially if a friend is inviting you or you see something valuable there, like the kind of people that you want to be around, don't hesitate to get in there, even if it feels a little bit scary at first, because what's the actual risk? The worst case scenario is you find it to be a terrible place or something and you just leave. Who cares? Nobody's going to notice. I will tell you about Mighty Networks, the platform that we're using for the community. If you join there, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. You could just observe. You're just going to get some content that you wouldn't get in other places. You're going to get some events you're invited to, and you can just be a lurker, like a stalker if you want. And you can also just disappear and it's not going to be awkward. Definitely don't let those kind of fears hold you back from connecting with people. And the thing is, if you go find communities on purpose around looking for people of a certain type, let's say you love gardening or you love painting or whatever it is, if you go and look for communities of people that are interested in the same things, you're going to find people that make your heart so full because you have so many things in common. Go intentionally toward the discomfort and go find communities on purpose. It's amazing.
I totally agree. Community is something I don't also understand. I thought it's just community in your neighborhood or community in school. But when I started, okay, I want to surround myself with people who are thinking, who actually value learning and growth. I was so surprised there are actually people like that. I didn't find those community, but I decided to create for me. And it's amazing that you will be able to also attract and connect people together. Can you tell everyone about this Emerge community that we have under Mighty Network? What's in there and what can they expect?
It's early. It's not as much there as there will be in the future. But I'm really excited because this platform, it's amazing. Just talking about that word community, there's some people I've talked to recently that are trying to wrap their minds around what that word means. If you think of a book club or a garden club or a shared interest group, let's say a book club, and you meet every week, you talk about a specific book and you only read books that same group of people likes, whether it's historical fiction. Let's say it's a historical fiction book club. The only types of books you read, everybody likes them. You like each other. You meet once a week. You talk about the books. That's a community of sorts. Now we're starting to have the ability to connect together effectively people anywhere in the world around any shared interest that we want. The shared interest in this community is developing yourself, specifically people who grew up in a Filipino culture or people who really care about the people from this culture. That's who we're really focusing on. Of course, it's not super exclusive. People can join from other countries, but it's here to serve Filipinos and people who are from this culture primarily. It's built around the shared idea to develop yourself. Everything inside the community is going to be built around that. And Mighty Networks is this amazing platform. People were using Facebook groups, they were using Discord, sometimes WhatsApp groups, trying to have a conversation to connect together people around a common interest. And it's okay. There's other ways to do it. But Mighty Networks makes it way better because it was specifically designed only for this. And it's beautiful. It's like a canvas where we get to paint what the community wants. We don't know what to actually create. We're going to be listening to the community and people in the community, let's say ambassadors, people who really care so much and have value to add. It's going to be built by everyone. We're just the ones who had planted the seeds, maybe created a little bit of a space, created some soil, and Mighty Networks built the platform. But it's going to be the people in the community who actually make it what it needs to be. So we'll be listening and people will be making suggestions. What's you're going to find in there will be events where you'll learn from amazing coaches that we are curating. We're going to be pretty picky about the quality of thought that we would bring as credible people that you can learn from, be able to connect with other community members if you want to. We'll do events where you can actually meet people from around the Philippines or maybe internationally. We're going to bring in coaches from other countries as well that will teach things that they're expert at. And we're going to organize that content around this concept of life being like a wheel. There's a lot of different metaphors you can use to try to look at and understand the framework of the work you need to do to constantly improve who you are. There's different ways to look at it, but this wheel of life metaphor, where if you think of your life as a wheel, let's say a wagon wheel or a bicycle wheel where there's actual spokes, like old style wheels. And if in this model, let's say there's 10 spokes, and I'll just read off a few. One of them might be human connection. One of them might be learning ideas in. One of them might be abundance. So this could be
Mhm.
your career and business and how you make money. One might be personal energy, health and fitness, and all the things that help you have a high physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy that you bring with you every day. I won't list off all 10, but you get the idea. Relationships. So you've got these 10 spokes. If you are ignoring one or more of those spokes egregiously, dramatically ignoring over time, and the spoke is just weaker and weaker and shorter, the wheel is going to be very bumpy when it rolls because it's not anywhere near round. But as you work on these different areas of your life, when they need work, you can keep growing them. You can't really work at them at the same time. It's one at a time. Your life will tell you when it's time to work on the next ones. You're starting to feel pain that I'm neglecting this part of my life. I'm neglecting my physical health. I'm not working out enough. Instead of spending time feeling bad about yourself that you've been maybe not working on that one enough, you just say, okay, that's a sign that I need to go and just put more energy into that spoke for a couple of days, a week, maybe longer. And I'm not going to drop all the other ones, but I'm going to just do that. If you imagine this metaphor as if you just keep methodically working on one spoke at a time, we're going to organize the events and the learning around those different areas in life to complete the metaphor simply and quickly. Personal development is at the very center. That's like the hub, your
Do you
very
want me
core.
to?
Everything is built off of that. That's your foundation. That's your center. That's your core. Things that you would consider as part of your core would be learning how to build habits, create routines, like learning how to build habits, self care and self love, emotional well being, practicing gratitude, practicing mindfulness and meditation, learning how to identify and change your beliefs inside yourself, becoming more open to change, building your communication skills and your confidence. These are all at the core of you. The more you work on that hub, the more effective you're going to be as you go work on the different spokes. You'll just become better at improving relationships. It'll become easier for you to go learn new things because you're just shifting who you are at the cup. Let's pretend that this wheel, as you go around it, as you roll it, that it's actually going up a spiral that's always spiraling upward across time. You're not just rolling flat, you're rolling up, going up and up. There's going to be bumps. You're going to be sometimes up and down. It's not going to be perfectly smooth going uphill, but across time, it's trending upward. And we want to help people feel consistently like they're trending upward, they're spiraling upward in life because you're consistently just day over day working on the hub and gradually going around working on the spokes as they need it. That's what the whole community framework is going to be built off of that concept, and would love feedback as we do it.
Amazing. I'm really excited for us to introduce that and for people to be able to join the community and get access to those amazing content that we will be creating for each of those specific spoke. This community is really center focused on developing yourself. And by doing that, it affects everything around that wheel. For the next conversation that we will be having here with Eli, I will be asking on how personal development can actually affect your relationship. I would love to talk about specific scenarios or tips. Walk us through on how it happens, because I definitely can talk about that. So that's going to be for the next videos. For today, that's it. Is there any other final words that you'd like to share to our audience, Eli?
No, I just think you're doing a really good job of interviewing, and it was fun. Maybe the last thing I'll just throw in is that inside the community, this amazing content that we will be creating, it's going to be something where we're going to be inviting a lot of other people to create it. It's not us. I hope you don't hate listening to us, but you would probably really get tired of just listening to us all the time. We don't know everything and we're not good at everything. So we're going to be bringing in people that we would want to learn from in these specific spokes at that hub so that we can all learn together. We're going to be learning as we go as well, because we don't know how to create a community yet. We're just going to be learning every step of the way and getting feedback, getting advice. So I think it's going to be a fun journey.
Stay tuned, guys. See you.
Thank you so much for listening to this interview on Emerge Stories. We really hope that something here sparked your curiosity or maybe helped you think about something in your life just from a little bit of a different angle or perspective, maybe opened up your mind to something you might be able to do in your life to take more ownership of your own learning and growth. That's the goal of this show. So please join our community, like and share, and tell other people about these stories if they're meaningful for you. And thanks so much for being here.